Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's better on draft.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 262 Better on Draft podcast. My name is Ken. Thank you for joining us live, if you are joining us live. If you're listening to us on podcast, you can join us live normally on Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Right now, it is Monday, July 5th, 3 p.m. Eastern. So if you are off today, hopefully you are enjoying a nice beer in observation of July 4th. We're going to go around real quick, introduce the host, tell everyone what we're drinking, and then we'll bring in our guest. For myself, I have a Royal Bee Honey Cream Double IPA from Drekker. Wendy, how are you, and what are you drinking?
I am fantastic. I am drinking a Never Have I Ever from Drekker.
And Robert, what do you got over there?
What is up? I have got myself a Passion Fruit Brains Double Fruit Smoothie Sour from Drekker.
Well, obviously, if you could tell based on either the title of this podcast or the fact that all three of us are drinking Drekker beers, welcome to the show, Mark from Drekker Brewing. How you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me on.
We appreciate you joining us. Why don't you real quick tell us what you do over at Drekker and how it all began?
Sure. So I'm president of Drekker Brewing Company, one of the co-founders. Really, Drekker started kind of out of an interest of a passion for craft beer and an interest for placemaking, and seeing kind of in the early 2000s what awesome community aspects were happening in tap rooms, and what was happening when people gathered around beer. We love the idea that it's the common people's drink that has this incredible diverse style range that you can play around with. And then we just saw something special happening when great people got around great beer, and conversations and moments were kind of catalyzed. So that's where we took the inspiration to start the brewery. And that remains our focus today, to try and make beers that catalyze moments of wonderment, bring people together, and really challenge people's ideas of what beer can be and how they can enjoy it.
I believe you said what I think a lot of us have been missing for the past year and a half, and that's that camaraderie of seeing people sharing a beer and, getting together over these liquids. I know a lot of people probably have been collecting beers or going through their cellars most recently, but I'm hoping that everyone is going out there and supporting their breweries. Just everybody knows Michigan Beer Map, mibeermap.com. You can find every single brewery, up to 400 breweries here in Michigan. I know North Dakota is not that far behind, but I know your guys' I think the oldest running brewery is only 2010 over there. Is that correct?
That sounds about right.
I was looking it up, and that's the Fargo Brewing, which is going to be one of your neighbors. Why don't you give us a little bit of information, if you can? How did it, how have you not had a brewery until 2010 over in North Dakota?
There were various breweries, brew pubs, for a long time. Really, I think in the new age, it hasn't been until 2010. Mainly that's because the tap rooms weren't legal. None of the legal structure to be able to have people come join you, drink, and hang out in the brewery was allowed until then. So it really took that big second wave of craft breweries to push that forward. And then once those laws got written, it's been a whole new world since then.
So I guess, as I said earlier, I am drinking the Passion Fruit Brains. One of kind of I guess you could say one of the sour notes that we've had here in Michigan, obviously no pun intended, is that before, I guess until I think it was about February, we used to be able to get your beer here in Michigan through Tavour.
Sure.
Obviously with, the law changes and court rulings, that pretty much got stopped for Tavour and just about any other beer delivery company that would be coming out here. Now, your beers were pretty popular in the app. It was sometimes we were seeing those where they were selling out within 10 to 20 minutes, sometimes even faster. I'm curious how much of a help has Tavour and other services like them kind of created a much broader appeal to Drekker's beers?
Yeah, we love Tavour. I think I know we're like probably one of the top 3 breweries for Tavour, and Tavour is one of our biggest customers across the country. So we have a great relationship with them. Really, where Tavour stands out in their benefit to craft brewing is that they've cultivated a following within themselves, and then they deliver exclusive, sought after, awesome beers. It's not every beer is going to be allowed to be sold on Tavour from any brewery. So the people that are on Tavour, they know they're getting high quality stuff. It's fun. It's hard to find things. And so what's great for the industry on that is that takes beers that are maybe only available at a tap room or, in a small distribution, and gives them an incredible reach. And for us, what we notice is that the people that are finding our beers on Tavour, they're specifically seeking out our beers. They're the real deal, true believer, fans of craft beer and what we're doing. So where we might be able to dump a bunch of beer into a distro market or go into, a hot craft beer area, and we'll get some people, but there's also some people that just kind of trip over the beer and find it. And, they're not super into it, but Tavour really gets you to the people that are seeking those experiences. So it's huge to get that engagement direct from those customers. Everyone that's on Tavour just freaking loves craft beer and loves the hunt. So that's what's been huge about it for us, and why we love working with them.
I mean, has their ability to distribute your beer kind of, I don't know, just kind of surpassed your thinking in terms of your regular distribution map with what you have in North Dakota? I'm not sure. I was trying to look at the other states that you distribute to, but does Tavour and their delivery kind of keep you away from the idea of trying to permanently distribute yourself to other states?
Tavour comes into the conversation of this new approach to what distribution means, to what being a national or even international craft beer brand means. And I think you might as well throw Instagram into that, because Instagram is that just changed a playing field of where Facebook was a way for people to start interacting with breweries or with any brand. Instagram was a way for content driven engagement, and it really gave breweries or other brands like that have great content, things that our beers look beautiful on Instagram, and so do every other breweries, and that really makes you an international brand the second you're on there. And so things like Tavour and then this new way that we do distribution, they're all focused at not trying to go a mile deep into a market and grab every tap handle and be the best selling SKU and hold on to these door shoots, liquor stores. It made us look at, hot, fun markets, and we sell a little bit of beer there. It's it sells out. There's a line at the liquor store. It goes away for a month and it comes back again. And we kind of just sprinkle beer all over the country and then all over the world, actually.
Yeah. Now, two of the ones that I see quite a bit, which I did as a customer of Tavour, I saw them a bit, although I was kind of one of those victims to those sellouts that were happening so damn quick. But this is my first time trying Brains with the passion fruit, and there was also the other series, the Slang du Jour, both of which have quite a bit of a variety of flavor profiles. So I guess I wanted to hear you talk to us about the Brain series and the Slang du Jour series, which for that one, the only one I've had for that was Raspberry Cobbler, which was amazing. But just talk to us about those two series, how those came about, and are there any other flavor profiles that you've yet to play with that you want to do?
Sure. So, both of those are, we call them stupid fruited sours. They're just incredible amounts of fruit being blended in there, and then adjuncting or other flavors going along with that. And that started for us around, that'd be like 2017. We started playing around with this smoothie idea. And we were one of the first breweries in the country to be doing this smoothie style sour. So we were trying to take what we had learned in hazy IPAs and milkshake IPAs, and how we could play around with mouthfeel, and then turn that into a sour. We'd been doing tons of kettled sours, even playing around with fruit in there, but we really wanted to go for this smoothie, this fullness. And so the first iteration of that was called Brain Freeze. And that's like the little sibling of Brains. And we started messing around with using lactose, sea salt, and then vanilla to build this super soft, kind of fluffy, creamy, ice creamish mouthfeel. And then along with, at that time with Brain Freeze, we were doing what we thought were like incredible amounts of fruit into these beers. And I think now Brains is about triple what that beer was. And so we keep that same smoothie aspect with sea salt, vanilla, lactose built into the back of it. And then it's just really insane amounts of fruit that we're blending into these. So you get that Jamba Juice, like pure fruit smoothie feel to it. Slang du jour is, another offshoot on that, where we were loving the adjuncting that was going along with milkshake IPAs and pastry stouts. And we just wanted to do it in a sour. We thought that sours actually presented maybe a better flavor base to elevate some flavors. Milkshake IPAs are fun, but you still have that savory ale, that really soft muting flavor. Acid is a great flavor exploder. It lifts things up. It changes it. It raises those small adjuncts you're trying to do. So Slang du jour was always this, we call it a sour a la mode, and it's always dessert or pie or cobbler inspired. So with those, we're doing things like granola and cinnamon and brown sugar and pie crust and cream cheese for cheesecake stuff, and all kinds of these adjuncts to build up a totally liquid version of a dessert. So that's where we're going with those beers. The other one in that kind of holy trifecta is Chunk, and that's our Sunday sour series. And so that one's a little bit more decadent, usually chocolate, white chocolate, marshmallows, peanut butter, something like that being blended in with the fruit. But really, where those flavors go now, we've left the realm. I think we've had a lot of fun with sours. We're still putting out some really great ones that we're excited about. But we're looking for that next base, that next canvas to start on. And from sours, we're going to seltzers with those now. And that seems kind of weird. We're not talking White Claw. We're talking the crazy smoothie, over fruited seltzers. And going back to a seltzer, it's not that ale, savory kind of round base of beer. It's not that super tart base of sour. It's totally neutral. So there's a lot of flavors that we can play around with on that and really have some fun with. So we've got some cool cocktail inspired or totally other adjuncted fruited sours coming out in that series. Starts with a beer called Plop. We just did our first full distro release of that. We've been doing some test batches or just small taproom only releases for a while in the brewery. But the first one of that just came out last week.
Nice. Now, I will say with the Slang du jour, that is for anything that tried to accomplish a cobbler flavor, that is the first I've ever had that was able to actually pretty much replicate a buttery crust, which completely threw me off, but it was so damn good. I was not expecting that. It was awesome. But I guess one more question before I hand it over to Wendy, just kind of what you're talking about with going into seltzers. One of the other things that I saw in another article was that Tavour had done a survey of the top beer styles. And last year, around February, the sour and funky category was at about a 27.1% share of the sales. And as of this past March, that category went up to over 35%. And with their statistics, 3 of the top 5 selling beers in the categories were yours. With now kind of going away from the sours and going to seltzers, is this now just, I don't want to say like getting ahead of the curve, of, what's coming up next? Because it seems like with how the share of the sales on Tavour is showing that sours is the place. I'm not sure where exactly I'm going with this, but I guess I'm just trying to ask is that, with the sours now, does that mean that with going to the seltzers, you kind of level off and go to seltzers, or it's just, we're doing it all. Fuck it. It's everything.
Our motto always is fuck it. So I think that really we're not going anywhere with sours. I mean, that's not going away. We absolutely love those. We've got a huge sour program, and we've got hundreds of beers still, in the queue to be released on those. Seltzers are just the next new one. We're always trying to find that next style, that next way we can keep innovating, a place for us to play, a new experience for people to enjoy. And so I think sours are just going to add to that where, over the last 3 years, the big three styles in the beer industry have been hazy IPAs, fruited sours, and pastry stouts. I think you're going to see these pastry fruited seltzers, or whatever anyone wants to call them. Seltzers are going to come into that. And it's just I think if people tried plop, they wouldn't even know what it is. They're certainly never going to guess that it's a seltzer, because it couldn't be any further from any of the other normal, alcoholic LaCroix. Plop is almost twice as much fruit as we put in Brains. So this is a totally different category of stuff to mess around with. It's just a different base, so we can do different things, and it might actually appear very similar to the fruited sours. But what we're able to put out as far as that final flavor execution, like you said, we nailed that cobbler aspect. There's a lot of things we're hoping that we've tried, that we tested out in sours, we just can't do right because you can't shake that sour tart finish. That's always there. That's part of that style. And that doesn't blend with every flavor we're trying to get out. So there's a bunch of new ones that we've been excited to get out. We've been trying to test them for a while, and they didn't work in sours. And we're actually really hopeful of how they're going to turn out in this seltzer base. Nice.
All right. Pass it off to Wendy.
So I was reading an article in craftbeer.com about your partnership with PunchGut. Is that how you say it? For
Yep.
your can art. And I found it completely fascinating. And I'm pretty sure the quote that got me was, we were dreaming up this brand identity that was kind of 90s skateboard punk with pogs and some death metal influence and a kind of pop culture trapper keeper vibe. PunchGut was the only person that we thought could pull that off. So I just wanted to tell us a little bit about that process and how it works, that you kind of have this house artist now.
Yeah. So, PunchGut's a really good friend of ours. He's also just happens to be a Fargo artist. So we've known him for years. He is an incredibly accomplished artist, graphic designer, gig poster artist. I mean, the dude does it all. And when we were, we don't ever look at anything in a singular focus. It's not this one thing and then the next thing. We try and see how everything's going to be connected. We're thinking 20 miles down the road on where this is all going to get connected. I mean, you can see that when you're looking at different labels we do. There's Easter eggs that are pre-hidden for a label that we're going to do in a year and a half. And we have no expectations that anyone else is going to pick this up, but that's the stuff that we love about it. We love hiding those trinkets and these stories and creating this spider web of connections in there. So when we started out this relationship with PunchGut, me and him sat down and we were really dreaming up this idea of a brand artwork theme that had some throwback aspects to it. Some things that we talked about pogs and skateboard decks and, metal cover, album cover, stuff like that. All these aspects that we loved, we wanted to kind of re-energize into craft beer labels. And we really saw, we took this idea that gig posters were a great place for artists to play around, do something crazy. It didn't even have to match with the band that they were doing. It just was, that was one of our favorite forms of art was gig posters, because it was so discarded and anti-gallery but it was real. It was inspired by something. And no one made it thinking this thing was going to be worth $4,000 and hang in a place where you weren't supposed to touch it. It was plastered on a wall and torn up, and people took it home and put it in their garage. And that there was something we loved about that idea. And so we were trying to recreate the next gig poster, and we wanted to make artwork that told a story on its own and had some depth and all this crazy and weirdness to it. And then that people would, we'd put it on a beer and they'd take it home with them and they'd share with their friends. And then they'd start talking about what the hell are these guys talking about? Did you see this little thing over here? I think that's this, or, and then they'd peel it off the can and stick it on their fridge in the garage. And to us, that was how we were going to inject art and excitement and something into people's lives. And so we sat down and really scaped out this whole idea of what they would look like, how drippy this would be. This is all going to play in here. And we started, we picked up this whole inspiration thing, got all these dreams together. And then we felt like we had the same plan together to pull this off. And then we just started chipping off label after label after label. And really every single one is pretty much in the brewery. I kind of release the new label when it gets done and show it to everybody. And I think we're batting about 99% on everyone's responses. Oh my God, that's my new, absolute favorite new label. Love this one. And every time. So it's great to keep doing that. And that keeps another creative aspect to the beer. It's not just about the liquid, but we think that liquid is art. We put so much passion and pride into what it is inside the can. We want to keep that going on the outside of the can. We want to tell another story. We want to continue to show people how much we care about this product in every way possible.
Well, I'm drinking this Never Have I Ever, and not only is the can pretty stinking cool, I'm not gonna lie, the beer is just amazing. It's so smooth, and it's got such a great mouthfeel to it. I love it.
Yeah, that's a pretty new recent label. That was a lot of fun to work out. I think we just had this that almost started. What's really fun about the label approach now is that we'll take the idea into a beer from any direction. Sometimes it's a super weird artwork idea that we're just going to hone in on this kind of vision or idea that we have. Sometimes it's a name, sometimes it's a color, sometimes it's a joke. And that was one where we had the name about Never Have I Ever. And I pretty much threw that at PunchGut and just said, hey, it's Never Have I Ever. I don't want to talk anymore about what I envisioned it is. I want that name. And we're on the same wavelength of what we're going to do with this. And sometimes I like to try and not influence him on things just because I know how cool he can run with that. And he took that to be this little graveyard seance thing at night. And our little punk skeleton person sitting there. There's a whole bunch of little Illuminati and other trinkets hanging around in that. But then the beer's phenomenal.
It is. It has Simcoe hops in it, which very rarely do I rave that highly about a beer with Simcoe hops. I think I'm allergic.
Simcoe gets I think sometimes Simcoe gets some bad rap from people that don't. I mean, Simcoe was the king of West Coast IPAs, just resinous, grapefruit, all those things. And really, what we're figuring out, with hazies and the more we're playing around with these super high oil flavonoid Pacific Northwest and Southern Hemisphere hops, is that it's a tool in the hands of a craftsperson. How you use them, when you use them, that matters. It has such a huge impact. And then Simcoe in the boil versus Simcoe in a dry hop versus Simcoe in a whirlpool, and then any detail around those ones can totally change Simcoe. But Simcoe can be a juice machine if you put it into that part.
Is that what you did here? Because I'm drinking now. Prior to us starting the show, I said, I'm probably not going to like these beers just because they're double IPAs, and if you give me a West Coast IPA, I just am not going to like it. I don't like pininess. I don't like bitterness. I don't like, I am a Michigander through and through, and I don't like Two-Hearted. Sue me. That's blasphemous here in Michigan. But this beer, I'm getting very, very light pine, but so much citrus. You said it was a tool based on the way you're doing things. Was that the intention of this beer, is to not be like a West Coast, and be a little bit more easier to drink for simple people like me?
Well, so is this the first IPA you've had from us?
Technically the second, because I had the Royal Bee, which I'm almost done with.
Royal Bee. Did you think that was a piney bitter?
No, not at all. I definitely I love the honey that I'm feeling in it. I feel like I don't know if it's the honey that was really like mellowing it out a bit, but I've liked both of these beers in front of me.
So I mean, we do almost all hazy IPAs. We love hops. We love using them to excess, and we really love oats and wheat and these adjunct malts in the malt bill to make these super soft, delicate, fluffy malt bills. And then the way we do our hopping, it's all built around massive aroma, super juicy flavor, restrained bitterness, but something there to cut. You can build up some malt sweetness, with some of these oats, and we want just enough bitterness to balance that, but not really so that it's scratching on your tongue or tickling your throat.
It's not defining the beer. The bitterness does not define. Like I want to talk a little bit more about this honey cream ale too, because it's just so it's smooth. Like I don't understand. For me, IPAs scare me, and it's not for the lack of trying. I have tried hundreds of IPAs, and it's a rarity when I find one I like. And hazies are a little easier to get into, but I'm looking at your cans and your art and stuff, and I don't see it saying hazy on here anywhere. Do you think, like, is it not hazy? Like, what is it? Is it not bad marketing? But I would be more aching to try it if I saw that it was a hazy.
Well, we were doing hazies before it was a marketing thing.
Okay.
So I think, yeah, you're probably right. We could maybe sell more beer on a general liquor store shelf, but there's some pride into is that this is how we do IPAs. This is how we've always been doing IPAs.
Do you do West Coast or the more piney bitter IPAs at all at your house or no?
We have in the past, and I think we're at the same conclusion that I think there are great West Coast IPAs out there. I love them from time to time. I love them for what they are, objectively, but subjectively, it's not my style. I found writing a recipe for hazy IPAs and the diversity of hops and how we can change those beers. I found a lot more satisfaction in pouring everything into this style of IPA and focusing on this avenue and going all in on that. As this is the type of IPA that we breathe. And it's not that I don't think that West Coast IPAs are good or shouldn't be made. I just think that there's great people making them, and I don't feel like playing in that. It's not I don't get out of bed thinking I want to make the next West Coast IPA. I stay up late at night trying to create 100 new hazy IPAs.
I will have to say for myself that this, as I just cracked open a Never Have I Ever, and I'm not sure I've ever been this excited about a double IPA since one of our local breweries, Old Nation, released Boss Tweed. This is just they're like the smoothness that's in here. Like when I see double IPA, I am expecting a little bit of that bitterness, that pininess, which, kind of to Ken's point, while being in Michigan and everybody up here loves to go up north and hang out with the trees, I'm not one of those. But, I do tend to like a few IPAs, and on first sip to like third to fourth, fifth sip, it is very smooth. It has a nice balanced level of citrus that is in there, and it doesn't. There's no point in like a regular double IPA, like a Two-Hearted or something, where there's that moment of you want to wince at the back end because it's just so much bitterness that's there. And this is just, if I didn't look at the can, I would have never thought this was double IPA. So it
makes me upset that Tavour no longer distros in Michigan, because I obviously skipped every single Drekker IPA that ever came through Tavour, and now I'm kicking my own ass. Thanks, Andy. Obviously, you didn't share it on the show.
Our philosophy on IPAs is really, like I said, we love these juicy fruit, melon aspects of hops. So all of the different hops we play with, we're trying to push those to the forefront. we like to make it so that there's a really good pedestal for those flavors to come forward. That's where the malt bill gets built up with all these oats and wheat and spelt. And it's designed to be kind of fluffy and soft. We want it to have this perception of sweetness or fullness up front. But then the yeast strain that we use is actually pretty attenuative. So the beer is actually pretty dry. And when you drink that beer, it should be full and fluffy, kind of this pillow mouthfeel that really just elevates this juice flavor. And then if you wash it off, it's clean and it's kind of gone. And making sure that there's an actual dryness to that beer makes sure that any bitterness that is in that leaves your palate. We don't want something that's residually sticky or heavy so that it stays on your palate and then holds those hop bitterness there. We want it to be clean and wash off. And I think that's one of the greatest paradoxes of this New England style or this juicy IPA, where it can be big and fluffy up front. It feels sweet. It builds that juice flavor. And then they're just beautifully kind of gone. They don't stick around in your palate. You're just left with some of those like nice hop breath afterwards. And then on Royal Bee, that's a little bit different one where we actually take, we're trying to create a bigger, stickier, smoother, creamier body on that. And we use lactose sugar and honey to do that in that beer. So that one has a whole bunch of lactose sugar, makes it really creamy, smooth, and soft. And then the honey actually helps dry the beer out. Honey, all the sugar will get fermented out of the honey, but the flavor of the honey sticks around. So you get that perception and flavor of honey sweetness at the end, and it feels kind of like this cream soda, smooth, vanilla creaminess almost to it.
Nice. Definitely good.
Awesome.
Right.
So I've read I've read multiple articles lately about the expansion of Brewhalla, which fantastic name, by the way. You guys are really nailing it marketing wise, I have to tell you. I'm just wondering if the pandemic has put a halt or slowed anything down on those plans, or if it's changed the way that you're going to use the facility.
That facility only got bigger during the pandemic. I'd say Brewhalla as this idea, that was always the nickname that we gave our current brewery. And we kept it kind of in the back of a nickname because that was more of the overall vision that we were trying to do out there, that we were trying to create this Valhalla beer hall kind of community aspect. And we were always trying to work in and build this other way to build these events and community and bring in other like-minded businesses and ways for customers to interact and share. We just continuously ran out of room in the brewery when we were restoring the old building that we're in now. We had a couple other outbuildings that we were trying to work this into, and we never really were able to do it right. And then right before the pandemic, the opportunity and the land behind us kind of changed a little bit. We saw this opportunity, and so we decided to build what's now Brewhalla out just immediately attached to the backside of the brewery. And it's the brewery itself is about a 15,000 square foot building. Brewhalla is 100,000 square foot food market, entertainment center, venue, and then hotel. So it really wraps together everything that we're going for. We want people to come and have an experience far beyond their expectations. We want them to connect with people. We want them to connect with brands and the food and the drink that they have. We want people to think and share and talk and have ideas together. And so we're creating a space that actually becomes bigger than the brewery. We actually want it to be separate from the brewery. And really, when it's all done, we want to look back and see that the brewery is a small part of what this bigger thing is. I hope that in our own footprint, the brewery becomes smaller and smaller on that, because that means that we're blowing up this bigger tent and this bigger and more robust community idea. And so it's a food market that has about 15 to 25 different vendors, restaurants, makers, butchers, cheesemongers, all this stuff in it. There's tons of gathering and food hall dining space in there. There's breakout spaces for events or small gatherings, little lounge areas, millions of different ways to hang out. And then there's the 2 event halls where we can do festivals. We do a hot dish festival. We do an arts festival. We do all kinds of kind of crazy, weird stuff during the year. So now we've got 2 big giant rooms that those just spill out onto the market. And then there's a boutique hotel that tops the whole thing off. So there's a massive rooms that are all individually designed with our artwork and themes and kind of trinkets and Easter eggs in them. And it's kind of a really unique, all-encompassing experience that is getting started out there. And that's going right now. They're about halfway done on all the foundation work, and they're expecting that like the building itself will be capped and the exterior will all be done around October or November of this year. And then it's the months and months of mechanical and electrical and building out the inside, and it should be finished and ready to open by the end of next summer.
I cannot wait. I'm super excited. It's definitely made it on my to-do list and quickly gone to the top after I've listened to you talk. So you mentioned a few festivals. How has COVID changed beer festivals for you guys, and what are you expecting? I see that you're supposed to go to the Untapped Beer Festival in October. Is that your first one back?
No, we'll be doing a few. Let's see. We've got there's Great Taste in Midwest in Wisconsin. That's like the beginning of August. We're going to that. There's another really big summer festival, the Summer Beer Dabbler in St. Paul every year. So we'll be going back to that one. And then honestly, I think whether they're festivals or kind of events, from the middle of August to the middle of November, I think we have one weekend that's not a festival or collab festival or something. So everyone's getting back at it here soon. It takes a while to plan them, but yeah, we're really excited to do that. That's really, those are fun interactions. It's fun for us to meet new people, see their faces, show them some beer. Maybe they've never heard of us. Show them who we are. Maybe they've always wanted to try us, so we can give them that opportunity. It's just a blast to get out there and rub around. It's also fun to be with our brewing colleagues out there and meet some new people, say hi to old friends, try each other's beers, and talk about what we're working on and dreaming up. That's a huge part of the industry, is just those sharing and collaborating together. But we kept it going during COVID too. I mean, I did a few. Whether it was Hop Culture or Untapped or, a whole bunch of different virtual festivals. And those were cool too. We made the most of it. I think I did some really fun panel sessions that they had on that, where, using things like StreamYard or those ways that we could host a panel, field questions from the people joining in on it. And it was great. We were all looking for ways to interact and do that. And if it can't be the face-to-face that we want, this still worked. It still allowed us to get out there and hear from customers and see what they were liking and not liking, and hang out with some friends and share a beer on some random Saturdays. It was certainly easier on a travel aspect, but I'm looking forward to get back to that too.
Now, there was obviously with a lot of the releases of the Black is Beautiful variations that have been going on for the past year or so, obviously you guys there at Drekker had released your own version of it. I was curious, what did you do to the initial recipe to make it your own, and where did the proceeds go?
So the proceeds went, part of the deal with that was that you chose a local, or I think they wanted at least to try and find a local organization to work with. And so we partnered with the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition, and they do some really great work for minorities, indigenous people, people of color, and then LGBTQ community. And they were really one of the driving forces in our region. After, in the whole climate that was going on, they were really one of the driving forces to pushing forward that change and opening up those conversations, and then connecting people to policy And so they were a great partner for that, and that's who we worked with on that beer. As far as the beer itself, that was a great recipe. We were happy to brew it as is. And they also encouraged people to take it as a starting point and make it their own. So we all we did on that was take a few of the malts that maybe we had a certain preference for, that they might have had an intent with a certain malt in there, and say, hey, we really like this other malt, and we think that would add a deeper raisin or kind of that date flavor to this beer. And so let's build that up. And then we also were thinking forward to the adjuncting that we were going to do on that. And I think we did vanilla and cocoa nibs. That was a year ago, and that feels like a decade ago. This time is quite the illusion, but we built it up to work on the adjuncting that we wanted to do with that beer as well. And that was quite an honor to participate in that collab. And it was certainly, our like I said, our brewery is a place for all. It's a big tent in the community. And we use it to try and help conversations, or enable conversations to happen. And we were really happy that just to be part of that happening in our community here in Fargo and in North Dakota. And I think the work still continues today.
It does.
Earlier in the show, you mentioned, we were talking about, that you had other breweries within the state, but there weren't any tap rooms that were allowed. We were doing a lot of research, and we saw a big multi-page document that you sent to the government of North Dakota about SB 2321 that made a lot of changes within the rules of North Dakota beer, including contract brewing, festival attendance. Did everything in that bill you want succeed, and what are some things that you'd like to do to help the future of North Dakota beer?
Yeah, I think we got everything we needed out of that bill. We needed to clarify some stuff around contract brewing. We needed to clarify some things around container sizes, around how much beer. Like right now, brew pubs had this really weird, like they could sell cans, but they couldn't even sell a full case. It was just really weird. And we were looking to create some consistency. There was a lack of consistency between, production, taproom breweries and brew pubs. And then there was also this inconsistency between breweries and wineries and distilleries. I still think there's some work to do on that. That wineries, distilleries, and breweries, we're all kind of coming into our own, nationally too, and just starting to work together on alcohol law. And so there are some things that we as brewers have privileges in North Dakota that I think wineries and distilleries would benefit from. And it makes perfect sense that they should have that opportunity if we're already doing it for one aspect of the industry. And then there's things that wineries and distilleries have that we as brewers think would benefit the industry. So that's some of the future work that we're working on. We also, with those festivals, that's a really cool license aspect that North Dakota has, where North Dakota is really proud of the products that are produced here. It's an agricultural state, and that's where it really starts with, is that they love primary sector value added agricultural products. Where North Dakota is one of the largest barley producing states in the country. It just took until 2010 until somebody was actually using a significant amount of that to make beer in the area. So they're certainly willing to support this agricultural originated business, and what they offer are these festival permits. So whether it's at farmers markets or there's kind of state expo festivals, different things, we can pull this state license and then take our beer to. We could go to a town festival 200 miles away in North Dakota and sell our beer, taste our beer, do that stuff, and we don't need to get a municipal license or transfer that stuff the way that alcohol laws would work. So the way we use those now are that, we sell beer at farmers markets in Fargo or in the region. And that's a really great way to connect with people that are looking to connect with their food and drink sources. We go out there and sample and share our beers that way. We go to other charity or kind of maybe, let's say, art festival events where we're now trying to come into this and say, like, this is art too. This is, we're putting art on the can, we're doing this stuff, and we want to play in that sector of the community as well. And so those licenses allow us to do that. And when they originally started out, you get 20 of those licenses a year. I'm not sure how they ended up at 20, but that's, a little less than half of the weekends of the year. And we were burning up those festival permits fast. So we were having to turn down a lot of things that would be great, but we have to prioritize those things. And so in that law, we were able to double that number, and hopefully that just helps us continue to grow, because quite frankly, we don't sell a lot of our beer in Greater North Dakota. Much more of our beer leaves the state than stays here, and most of it stays right in Fargo or even at the brewery. So these festival permits and these other changes in the state law allow us to, expand more within our own community, opens up those laws so that, there was a time when it was just easier for us to distribute outside of the state rather than doing with the state laws. So this kind of recreates a better playing field, and that all takes effect in August. So we're really hopeful for that.
Awesome. Well, as we wrap up this episode, we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to chat with us on this Monday. We're all going to ask you one final question before we say our goodbyes. So we will start with Wendy. Wendy, are you muted?
Welcome to 2021. You're on mute.
I almost went through a whole episode without it. So my question is, I'm a new person. I have never been to your brewery before. I've only had maybe one or two of your beers. What do you say to get me to come and visit you guys?
Really what's so cool about our brewery, even if you don't care about our beer, is it's the camaraderie. It's the experience of the whole building. So we're in this 140-year-old restored locomotive repair building. It's this giant brick and wood skylight wrapped in windows building, and it feels like this modern reclaimed beer hall that it's something of its own making. You can't help but hang out there, start talking to new people, and all of a sudden you just feel like trying new beers. And it's a totally open concept with the brewery, so you can see every aspect of what we're doing back there. Nothing is behind closed doors. So it's really kind of this whole integrated space. You get to come in and see everything that we're doing. And whether you like beer or not, it's still just a fun place to be.
Awesome.
All right, Rob.
All right. Now, the closest I've been to North Dakota, I had a friend who lived in Webster, South Dakota. I was out there for weddings and visiting and whatnot, but hopefully there'll be one of these days where I get that way. But I was curious that obviously, despite the pandemic, 2020 was a pretty good year for you guys in that, according to the stats from the Brewers Association, that you became as you said, the highest producer of beer in the state, passing Fargo Brewing by about roughly 1,200 barrels. Is 2021 shaping up to be an even stronger year? And I guess, where are you seeing production numbers heading?
I just need your help then. What was the number of barrels that we were said to have produced in that article?
6,660.
Yeah. It's funny how those numbers work out sometimes. So
is it not accurate?
No, it is. It's okay. I'm saying it's all part of the ethereal. So I think we're on track right now, annualized, to do about 11,000 barrels. I think we'll close out this year around 8 or 9, and then if we were a year from June, it'll be somewhere between 10 and 12,000 barrels is what we're going to produce moving forward.
Nice.
So big. I mean, we've been growing. We've been pushing as hard as we can. We're loving the beers that we're making, and everyone on the team is just having an absolute blast doing what we're doing. But that is pretty much the physical limit of the brewery. The next steps for anything beyond that are major infrastructure changes. And I don't know. I mean, I hate to document these things for eternity, but where we sit right now, we don't have a whole lot of interest in going there. We're certainly not going to push into that area. I think we're just going to a little bit more gently stay where we're at, keep having fun with the beers, and see where that puts us in another couple of years.
All right, and I am going to finish this off with something a little, fun, relaxing. Obviously, everyone knows the Coen brothers and all the movies that they make, and obviously there are a lot of movies that are, probably very specific to our guests. So I'm curious, what did you think when they came out with the movie The Big Lebowski? Were you a big fan of Jeff Bridges, or?
That's funny. So Big Lebowski is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love everything the Coen brothers do. That whole the dark sense of humor, and you can see that in many of their other movies. But really, like, it's almost like they create in each movie a time and a place, and then a sense of humor that you can't even understand the first time you watch it. You can hopefully just enjoy it, and then the second time you watch it, you see that sense of humor that you learned by the end actually taking effect in the beginning. And so those movies, just like how we try and do some of our artwork labels, that there's jokes in the beginning of The Big Lebowski that you actually have no context to understand until you see the end of the movie. And then you have to go back and watch it again. So yeah, we love The Big Lebowski as well as everything the Coen brothers do.
All right. Drekker Brewing, you guys are in Fargo, North Dakota. Not distroed here in Michigan, and sadly, Tavour, you can't get it. Where's the nearest to Michigan we could get your beer?
So in a few weeks, we'll be opening up Illinois distribution. That's getting pretty close to you. And then depending on how much you play into the going over the horn, Wisconsin is a huge market for us.
All right. Well, they can find you over at Drekker Brewing on Instagram. See everything that they're doing over there. These beers were amazing. Thank you so much. We appreciate you taking the time. And that's going to do it. Again, you can follow us on all of our social medias. That's Better on Draft on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Bod Podcast on Untapped to find out everything that we drink. BetterOnDraft.com is our website. BetterOnDraft.tv, live Fridays at 7 p.m. And no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's Better on Draft. Have a good night.